This is Dr. Ryan Maley. He's a Canadian family doctor, an author, and a retired politician who held a position as a leader of opposition in his constituency. For the next 6 months, he will be volunteering his time assisting TB patients in some of the hardest to reach areas in Lesotho. But this afternoon, we take time to get his reaction on international politics, especially in the Middle East conflict, now at ICJ.
I think in the longer term, bigger picture, that relationship between Palestine and Israel has been so fraught and such a mess for so many years. What can be done to reach a solution that doesn't have us coming back to this over and over again? There's nothing here that's new. It's uglier, it's bigger, it's messier, but it's the same conflict we've been dealing with for so long.
But he is more intrigued with how some of those who experienced oppression behave when they attain their liberation.
I also think the historical parallels are interesting. There is a phenomenon that happens in history where sometimes peoples that have been oppressed, when they find their freedom, they also find themselves oppressing others. The Afrikaners oppressed by the English, and then they brought in apartheid and oppressed the black people of South Africa and all peoples of South Africa who weren't Afrikaners. A prime example for this, for me, is Liberia. Freed slaves came from the United States, black people from the United States returning to Africa. But they set up a system where they oppressed the local people. Having been freed from their oppression, they started slavery there. They had a system of not being able to marry natives and have people who were living there already originally mix with these people who are returning from America. There's something that happens there. And when it comes to the case of Israel, you have the massive impact of the Holocaust. You have now, are they in a position to be oppressing another people? And are they asking themselves those questions? On the other hand, and this is what's so messy about this one, is there are so many other hands. Hamas is a real threat. They killed people, they raped people, they assaulted. Israel is, unlike perhaps some of these other examples, actually under pressure and engaging in self-defense. And the big question now for the International Court, and just for all of us as humans to be asking, is what are the limits to that self-defense? What is going too far? And I think there are a lot of legitimate questions about ways in which Israel has crossed that line.
Meanwhile, the former director of prosecutions at The Hague has been closely watching the proceedings and shares some lessons learned regarding the international law.
I was surprised that Israel came to the court to come and argue the case. I would have thought that Israel would just say, we have got nothing to do with this. We are not going to answer them. So the fact that Israel came to the court and the fact that now there were arguments on both sides, and they put up quite a robust argument to South Africa's robust arguments arguing for genocide. That in itself, I think, it's a way that shows that now if the international law does work, and that if there are disputes and there's anything else now, we should go to the law, and that the International Court of Justice, being the highest court that can resolve these issues one way or the other, then this is the way to go.
And the bigger question remains, once the verdict is passed, what is the next step?
There's no higher court than the International Court of Justice. There's no higher court than that. It's the same thing as the ICC. They won't appeal to the ICC. There may be some other proceedings at the ICC, but those will be different type of proceedings that may go to the ICC. But for now, this is the end of the matter. Once the ICJ decides on this issue, that will be the end of it. The question will again be whether, what is their decision, and for instance, if that decision is against Israel, how enforceable and whether the decision is going to be implementable. But that's going to be an issue for another time. That's a problem that we have with international law, that you don't have a police force, you don't have anybody to enforce it, so it is up to the willingness of the states themselves to see if they can see to the enforcement of the decisions and judgments of the ICJ.
As the international community continue to stray out of tune, it is the future generation that stands to benefit or forever bear the consequences of the decisions made by the modern-day adults. Rapelang Radebe, SABC News, Maseru.